October 19th, 2023, 1:32 a.m. The Red Sea. A U.S. Navy MH-60R Seahawk was returning from a reconnaissance patrol when it was suddenly illuminated by an infrared lock. Within seconds, a surface-launched missile rose from the Yemeni coastline. Alarms echoed through the aircraft. The pilot shouted incoming before initiating evasive maneuvers, but the missile had already locked on. The explosion shattered the tail rotor. The Seahawk spiraled violently and crashed into the dark sea. On board, the USS Carney, 40 nautical miles away, dubbed the anomaly. Radio silence broke as a distress signal came through. Muffled, frantic, real. They'd just been attacked. The shock turned to focus. Rescue teams scrambled. Launch orders were issued. Retaliation was already in motion. This wasn't just a downed helicopter, it was a provocation, a test. And the U.S. response would come not only in force, but with purpose. At 1:32 a.m. on October 19, 2023, the Seahawk helicopter performed routine reconnaissance over the Red Sea when the unexpected happened. A surface-to-air missile erupted from the dark horizon, slamming into the Seahawk's port side with explosive force. Instantly, a cascade of alarms rocked the USS Carney. The command deck erupted in controlled chaos. Voices shouted orders, radars locked onto the threat. Rescue boats were readied, and damage control teams prepared emergency procedures. Within moments, flight deck control triangulated the Seahawk's last known position using its transponder blips and beacon signals. The helicopter spun out of control, crashing into the waves with a trail of smoke. Yet 3 survivors ejected before impact, each deploying survival beacons. This was no standard search mission. It was a rescue under direct threat. The stern command echoed, "Recover the crew. Neutralize the threat." Below decks, the Combat Information Center lit up with activity. Aegis operators kept missile batteries at defensive hold, but attention shifted toward retaliation. Intelligence analysts traced the missile launch to a mobile Houthi launcher ashore in Yemen. The Carney's vertical launch system began stamping its signature. Sea Sparrow and Tomahawk missiles loaded and armed. Aegis fire control radars locked multiple coastal targets. Coordinates filtered in, moved toward authorized engagement envelopes. Orders from NavCent emphasized precision, not escalation. Every shot must be lawful, every move deliberate. Above, 2 FA-18 Super Hornets from the nearby carrier group swooped low, scanning for additional threats. Rescue RHIBs kicked across the deck at high speed, weaving through rough seas to reach the downed Seahawk. On deck, sailors braced for secondary attacks. Fingers hovered over 50 caliber triggers. CIWS crews rotated their turrets, ready but locked. The engines roared, red lights flashed, tension draped over the ship like a shadow. At the same time, the rescue boats reached the scene. The first RHIB pulled 2 survivors aboard, the co-pilot, wounded but conscious, and the sensor operator, shaken yet alive. Moments later, a second boat recovered the pilot, found floating with severe concussion but breathing. The 4th crew member remained missing. Each rescue got coordinated medical care. The flight deck transformed into a makeshift trauma center. As rescue operations concluded, the Carney's retaliatory posture ramped up. 2 Tomahawks awaited final approval, while Aegis tracked multiple coastal launch sites. Commanders assessed real-time intelligence. Was this strike directed or a warning? Either way, a calculated response would follow. The weapons were red-hot, but restraint remained the rule. The order came. Tomahawks authorized on designated Houthi missile positions. Execute on my mark. Then the quiet came. The rescue boats returned to the deck with survivors in tow. Pilots and crew received treatment under medical teams, triaged swiftly. Yet overhead, the missile tubes hissed readiness. The Carney was poised. This strike was no knee-jerk move. It was sanctioned, calibrated, and built to deter future attacks. In those moments, the USS Carney balanced 2 missions: save lives and preserve naval deterrence. The Seahawk crew was safe, for now. But the engine hum of Aegis systems below could swiftly turn rescue into retaliation with the same steel calm that defines modern naval warfare. At 1:38 a.m., rescue efforts were still underway when missile-ready consoles on the USS Carney remained tense. Tomahawk and Sea Sparrow missiles were poised, Aegis tracking coastal targets and launch vectors along Yemen's shore. The decision to strike was deliberate, not retaliatory impulse. Command channels confirmed rules of engagement. A confirmed Houthi missile strike meant precision retaliation, no collateral escalation. Once the Seahawk crew was secure, the order awaited final command. Meanwhile, Flight Deck Control coordinated with RHIB crews and medics to transfer the rescuers and survivors back aboard the destroyer. Bleeding and injuries were queued for immediate triage. Every medic's team on standby. Back in CIC, intelligence confirmed multiple Houthi missile batteries located within a 20-mile corridor. Satellite comms and EW sensors fed live data into Aegis. The scenario was clear. If Carney struck one launcher, others would scatter. If they remained idle, another Seahawk might fall. At 1:45 a.m., survivors received emergency medical treatment, dressing wounds, stabilizing fractures, administering fluids and painkillers. One sailor, suffering shock and burns, was monitored under red lights in a makeshift casualty bay. The bridge and CIC shared a silent nod. Mission shifted from rescue to strike authorization. The order rippled through the ship. Tomahawks armed, standing by for engagement instructions. Not far overhead, FA-18s maintained a combat air patrol, their sensors locked into the battlefield. Hornets were ready to intercept any additional Houthi missiles or drones. Carney's CIWS systems recalibrated in silent vigilance. Electronic warfare specialists increased signal jamming readiness, prepared to isolate missile guidance systems and deny the enemy targeting advantage. Finally, at 1:50 a.m., command came. Fire mission authorized. Tomahawks inbound. Vertical launch system tubes opened with mechanical precision. Tiny red lights indicated lock and readiness. Nightmare-type data links fed targeting information into each missile. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. 7 Tomahawks shot skyward in unison, thrusting into the night, engines roaring as they pierced the calm of the Red Sea sky. The missiles arced over the horizon, racing toward Houthi positions on Al-Hudayda's coast. Aegis tracked their flight paths, offering mid-course corrections. The deck crew watched the launch console, breathing shallowly. Each missile carried destruction calibrated to minimize civilian harm while neutralizing the threat. The message was unmistakable: attack naval aviation and face overwhelming precision strike. In those moments, USS Carney balanced two vital missions: protect lives, enforce naval deterrence. The rescue and strike sequence unfolded with cold efficiency. The Seahawk survivors stabilized, the Tomahawks en route to target, and an unspoken pact passed among the crew. Restraint, but with lethal capability. The stage was set for how modern naval warfare unfolds: scrutinize, respond, and never waver. By 2 a.m., the first Tomahawks had impacted Houthi missile launch positions along the coast near Al-Hudayda. A series of precision airbursts calibrated to eliminate the threat while minimizing collateral damage echoed through sensor feeds aboard the USS Carney. The CIC displayed streaming data. Target destruction confirmed. Missile system disabled. Secondary explosions recorded. The bridge crew held its breath as analysts verified each impact. Simultaneously, surface-to-air missile batteries were directed toward secondary coastal sites. The Sea Sparrow systems powered up, missiles locked into coastal radar signatures. Aegis maintained constant tracking envelopes as missiles soared over the Red Sea. Operators monitored real-time seeker data, ensuring each shot stayed true. Electronic warfare teams stayed ahead, broadcasting counter-jamming signals to prevent enemy reaction. The Houthi launchers, designed to evade, couldn't conceal their plumes in satellite imagery or shipboard thermal sensors. On deck, sailors maintained their positions, eyes on consoles, hands at readiness. 2 FA-18s maintained orbit, eyes on the horizon for any additional threats. RHIB rescue boats and medical teams remained alert for further transmission pings. Bridge announcements updated survivors' conditions, but the tone remained resolute. Duty first. Seawater sloshed against the hull as Carney continued its patrol course. The rhythm of engines and radar pings formed a tense backdrop. Across multiple channels, reconnaissance drones relayed imagery of collapsed launch tubes and blackened ground craters. Analysts compared pre-strike data to live visuals, watching Houthi defensive equipment topple. The strike took less than 8 minutes but had far-reaching consequence. the lives lost in the Seahawk crash, and the strike's precision carried profound weight. This wasn't escalation, it was consequence-based deterrence, demonstrating that any future attack on U.S. or allied assets would be met with proportionate power. Back in CIC, logs were updated with operation codes, timestamps, targeting data, and detonation confirmations. These records would form the backbone of official reports to NavCent and congressional oversight hearings. A quiet sense of tactical satisfaction filled the spaces between console hums, but crews remained vigilant, aware that the enemy could adapt, relocate, or respond asymmetrically. A single Tomahawk strike was a show of force, but the battle for maritime dominance was far from over. As the first wave of strikes completed, USS Carney transitioned into sustained watch mode. Priorities shifted from immediate threat elimination to extended patrol and deterrence. Missile batteries were reclassified to standby, surveillance drones redeployed to cover previously cleared zones, and electronic arrays retasked to maintain spectrum dominance. On deck, the tattered remains of naval crisis had begun to fade, but mental vigilance remained sharper than ever. In those hours, the ship had executed a textbook response: reconnaissance, rescue, decisive strike, and sustained deterrence. Each decision had balanced rules of engagement against strategic objectives, ensuring viable freedom of navigation while punishing aggression. The Red Sea had seen the first shots in this episode, but it was quiet afterward. Lethal deterrence had been projected with precision, and the USS Carney crew knew they had delivered the message: attack us in our skies, and face calibrated, resolute response. By 2:15 a.m., the missiles had cleared their flight paths, and the night air was now punctuated by distant echoes of impact, not alarm bells. USS Carney transitioned from strike mode into aftermath management. Damage control teams returned to normal protocols. Flight deck control resumed operations, readying the pad to receive survivors and shuttle returning helicopters. But above all, communication became mission critical. On the bridge, the commanding officer initiated encrypted channels with the 5th Fleet and NavCent HQ. Mission logs were transmitted: Seahawk crew condition, missile trajectories, impact coordinates, and strike assessments. These reports would inform international partners and act as evidence of proportional response. Meanwhile, the onboard public affairs officer prepared a response ready for release. The message needed to be firm: credible deterrence, lawful action, and care for personnel. Within the CIC, tactical analysts began categorizing outcomes. Confirmed launcher neutralization, one note said. No civilian assets involved. Another set began monitoring for retaliatory missile activity. Electronic warfare teams kept passive sensors active, intercepting any chatter about counter-strikes. Further airspace deconfliction ensured Super Hornets remained available for escalation if needed, but also clear for humanitarian patrols or refueling. Meanwhile, survivors received medical treatment. The co-pilot underwent stabilization, and the pilot was moved to the medical bay. The sensor operator was awake, but fatigued. All three were monitored via telemetry: heart rate, breathing, neurological signs, treatment within golden hour. Their rescue was proof the team's efforts worked. The 4th Seahawk crew member remained missing. Search teams continued efforts along designated search patterns. Forward deployed allies received updates. A Canadian destroyer in the region shared radar relays, and a French supply ship provided medical liaison support. That coordination didn't draw headlines, but ensured strategic unity. Each discussion emphasized de-escalation and maintaining international law. Naval channels buzzed with affirmations of rules-based order. By 2:45 a.m., surface weapons were stood down to standard posture, guns unmanned, missile racks locked, but logs revealed shifts in doctrine. After-action entries outlined revised protocols: widened rescue zones, tighter launches detection, faster intelligence sharing. Crew rotations reset. Commanders debriefed junior officers. Each sailor understood that they had seen how quickly conditional deterrence could become kinetic deterrence. The command deck then issued the order: return to patrol course, maintain elevated watch, continue freedom of navigation next phase. The engines changed tone, steady and resolute. The Red Sea night resumed, but this mission had reset its boundaries. U.S. naval presence was no longer silent. It was silently vocal. The message was clear: protect, retaliate, then report. a modern ballet of naval warfare carried out under the quiet glow of stern professionalism. By 3 a.m., USS Carney had settled into post-operation mode, but the mission plane extended far beyond rescue and strike. In the CIC, intelligence analysts convened. They pored over drone footage, satellite images, missile debris, and targeting logs. Fingerprint analysts identified the missile type, a Soviet-era SA-7 mobile launcher repurposed by Houthi forces. Launch coordinates pinpointed the coastal town of Al-Hudaydah. Analysts cross-referenced UAV tracks showing suspicious vessel activity. Patterns emerged that indicated a coordinated Houthi missile launch support team along the shoreline. In parallel, weapons officers reviewed strike effectiveness and collateral risk. Sea Sparrow sites were confirmed destroyed with minimal debris near fishing zones. Tomahawk impact photos validated that Allied civilian vessels were not in the strike zones. This was critical intelligence. Proof of surgical precision underlined U.S. commitment to lawful engagement protocols, bolstering regional and international legitimacy. On deck, the medical teams treated the rescued crew, debriefing each survivor. Their first-hand accounts upped situational awareness. "I saw the launcher prepped at dusk," said the co-pilot. Such first-hand testimony helped refine future targeting and predict Houthi behavior. Each story was logged in official transcripts for NavCent and congressional briefings, a living record of the mission's human dimension. Meanwhile, Strategic Command downlinked the intelligence packet to 5th Fleet headquarters. The dossier included ELINT waveforms from intercepted missile guidance codes, EW data on counter-jamming actions, and drone imagery of damage sites. With that, planners began evaluating further deterrent options, designate exclusion zones, increase drone patrols, and arm Allied vessels. Recommendations were made for joint drills with UK and French forces in the Red Sea. Further westward, U.S. naval leadership initiated diplomatic outreach, quiet meetings with Gulf coalition partners to explain both the Houthi threat and U.S. measured response. Carney's mission became a case study in calibrated retaliation. By demonstrating that freedom of navigation patrols were protected yet grounded in legal norms, the U.S. reinforced alliance credibility and shaped broader coalition deterrence. On the bridge, the commanding officer met with the executive officer, reviewing crew performance and officer conduct. "Your team executed flawlessly," he said. "Calm saved lives. Precision preserved peace." It was more than commendation. It was an instruction for future patrols. Stay ready, stay calm, and rely on protocols. As dawn approached, Carney shifted back to routine NEO and patrol operations. Smoke dissipation over combat zones brought focus to sustainability. Reorder supplies, repair equipment, replenish ammunition. Boat crews scrubbed RHIBs. Radar engineers recalibrated sensors. Engines hummed steadily amid ship-wide activity. The Seahawk crew had been saved, the threat neutralized, and the U.S. deterrent posture reinforced. Through every phase, crisis, rescue, response, and reflection, the USS Carney showcased how modern naval warfare hinges on data-driven precision, legal compliance, and strategic clarity. The true power lay not just in missiles, but in disciplined execution, integrated intelligence, and projecting calm resolve across a volatile region. By 4 a.m., the USS Carney had fully transitioned from operations to reflection and planning. The night's events, rescue, retaliation, intelligence gathering, had been executed with precision, but the mission's value extended far beyond a single strike. On the bridge, the commanding officer assembled senior staff for a comprehensive after-action review. The goal: translate tactical success into enduring strategic posture. In the Combat Information Center, analysts presented a synthesized operational report. They laid out missile trajectories, confirmed launcher demolitions, and highlighted survivor rescue timelines. EW teams reported zero interference detected post-strike. UAV and satellite feeds showed Houthi coastal radar and launcher infrastructure wiped out. Most importantly, no collateral damage occurred. This was more than a military victory, it was a statement. U.S. naval power was disciplined, lawful, and effective. Simultaneously, partnerships across the theater were reinforced. The Canadian destroyer provided continuous radar coverage. French and British ships in the region shared imagery and electronic support. That interoperability became the centerpiece of strategy. Align allies for rapid detection, coordinated rescue, and unified retaliation. Conferences were scheduled for joint planning sessions, ensuring future missions would leverage multinational assets seamlessly. Elsewhere, strategic messaging began. From Fifth Fleet, official briefings were prepared for regional media and diplomats. Key points: the strike was limited, proportional, triggered only after Houthi aggression in international airspace. Rescue success demonstrated U.S. commitment to life, while precision targeting showed respect for international law. Internal memoranda recommended escalation protocols be codified, defined launch zones, kill chain clarity, and legal oversight at each decision node. Below decks, Carney's crew returned to maintenance cycles. Sea Sparrow reloads, Tomahawk diagnostics, and CIWS calibrations began. Medical teams reviewed procedures and updated casualty protocols. Engineers inspected missile tubes and flight deck rigging. Flight crew rehearsed recovery drills. Every action reinforced readiness, a ship that responds in crisis and rebuilds with intent. In the final hours, the commanding officer addressed the crew. He commended their calm under fire, professionalism, and swift execution. "Tonight we showed deterrence works," he said, "but vigilance remains our lifeblood." The crew absorbed the words in low voices, pride tempered with purpose. As sunrise broke across the Red Sea horizon, USS Carney eased into patrol formation. Rescue boats were secured, drones relaunched, and sonar sweeps resumed. The operation had concluded, but its implications endured. The region now understood: attack U.S. naval aviation and suffer disciplined, calibrated retaliation backed by allies and law. In those hours, tactical action became strategic posture. The mission etched into doctrine: rescue, retaliate, rebuild, remind. The Carney sailed on, not just as a ship, but as a statement, a signal of naval discipline in an age of brinkmanship, reminding friends and adversaries that modern naval warfare is as much about precision and patience as it is about power. The attack on the Seahawk was more than a strike, it was a message. But what followed was a masterclass in U.S. naval warfare: calm under fire, rapid retaliation, precision targeting, and international coordination. The USS Carney didn't just rescue its own, it dismantled the threat, restored deterrence, and reminded every adversary watching that American resolve is backed by speed, strategy, and strength. In a region full of flashpoints, this was a line drawn with steel and discipline. The Red Sea isn't just a passageway, it's now a battleground where rules must be enforced. With each sortie, with each recovery, the Navy refines its readiness. And for the crew who survived that night, and for those who brought them home, the message is clear: we never leave our own behind, and we never let an attack go unanswered. If you believe stories like this matter, subscribe, like, and comment to support the channel.